All right, let's get started now. So I'm going to talk to you about design systems at startups and why it's not too early to get started. So my name is Miranda Garrido, as you heard. I'm head of product at Novo. We do business banking in the US for startups, entrepreneurs, small business owners, mom and pop shops. And what we want to do is we want to empower small business owners to provide them with banking services and resources that are actually designed for them and actually going to meet their needs. So why am I here and how does all of this come full circle? Well, my background is in design and product design, and in the past years, I've had the fortune to work with a lot of startups, either at accelerators or just at small companies. And I've been able to see basically from one-person startup that starts with a founder or with someone that has an idea, and then be able to shape their design, their product, and their strategy in their company. Because when you get involved this early, you have the ability to help in many different ways. You wear many different hats. At Novo, I was able to join in 2018, and I was employee number 1 in the US. It was basically the 2 founders, and I started there with a great development team. And the idea was that we wanted to take Novo to market as quickly as possible. Why? Because there's nothing like testing your ideas quickly and literally validating them with your audience. So fast forward a couple of months or years, literally in startup time, this happens so quickly. We were able to launch in iOS in 6 months. So now we've been a year in the iOS App Store. This happened in October. And we are live in Android and web, I believe, since this week. So many of you might think like, oh, well, that's basic. Basically, every bank has to be live in every platform. It's true. But you have to remember that this was literally an idea that 2 people had not very long ago. And now we're able to provide services to thousands of people and to help them out grow their own business. So their own startup. Ideas are literally where you start, so you have to take a lot of consideration into how you're gonna build your idea and who are the people that you're gonna bring in to help you. Who here is at a startup or works at a startup? Can you please raise your hands? All right, there's a couple of you. Who does design system at a startup? All right, that's good. Who here, on the other hand, is at a big company? All right, many of you, don't worry. This content is also gonna be relevant because at the end of the day, in big companies, you also have your little teams of designers or developers or whoever it is that basically become like your startup inside the big company. We're gonna cover 3 topics. The first one is design systems at startups. Second one are key things to consider, which are very important. And third, we're going to talk about what are the steps that you can take to get started. So first, in design systems at startups, usually there's 1 or 2 things. People either overcommit completely or they ignore the fact that design systems exist. And what happens? When people overcommit in a startup, when a team is so small, what can happen is that the design system can very easily become the one project of the startup. Because if you think of design systems as this complex, big thing, it really sucks up all of your resources. It ties up all of the important people. So if you have a designer, you have a developer, they're working on your design system, that's it. You don't have anyone else who basically access for information about building your product. And then the second thing that can happen is that people ignore it completely. So at a small startup, you might think like, look, I'm just gonna take these components, I'm gonna start building, I'm gonna do some decks and some websites. And what happens? Oh my God, suddenly we're successful and people actually want more things from us. Hello, growing pains. I welcome you, but I also feel you. And what happens is that suddenly you start doing websites and decks and things that look nothing like one brand. So when you put things together, you're like, oh my God, who are we in the first place? Like, what happened? No one knows. At Novo, this literally happened early on because when I started, I went to the CEO and I was like, hey, Michael, what's up? And he was like, yeah, what's up? You tell me. And I'm like, hey, can you give me some time to develop my design system? I think it will be really cool. He was like, sure, take your time. I was like, great, bye, see you. Then, after a couple of days, he stopped by my desk and he was like, okay, so how much more time do you need? And I was like, I don't know, maybe like 3 months? 3 months? This guy almost died. Heart attack. What happens at startup land is that 3 months is literally light years. You can be in another universe, you can build another company. It's so far away that dedicating 3 months of your startup life to a design system, it's just a no. That's not gonna happen. So what we did as a good small team following the direction of our CEO, we literally stopped, drop everything, no design system, continue what you're doing. And what ended up happening is that, of course, we ended up having some components, some buttons, some things that looked like the cousin, the friend, the parent, maybe the lost child, who knows. We had our blues or greens, but nothing really clicked in the sense that we didn't have a unifying message. So it's not about having a color and the right hex, because anyone can do this. Look, you just go online, you take a color palette, you pick it, you put it in your system. This is literally not what's going to make your design system work, because what we forgot is that at the end of the day, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. What happens? It doesn't matter if you focus on designing your widgets or your buttons, or take all of the principles of atomic design system. You have to understand that our startups, the big thing and what literally changes your headspace is the purpose that you give your design system. Basically, this is not like, oh, let's take this out of the box and let's put it there so anyone can use it, and start making things that are literally like copy and paste so anyone can just plug and play. Like, yes, that's awesome. But nowadays, if you're thinking like that, and if you're thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna be building something that's gonna be behind the curtain, it's literally going to be something that works for your team internally, but that's not gonna have an impact outside the company. And what happens at startups, everything needs to have an impact outside the company, because your livelihood depends on it. Literally, there's many companies that, even though they might have a great idea, a product that can change lives, that can be completely mind-changing, users are not even willing to give it a try because their brand looks fuzzy, their website doesn't seem like it gives you trust, and the downfall of these companies is pretty quickly. It doesn't matter if you have the best tech stack in the world. It's not gonna make it to the audience that you're trying to reach. So let's look at an example of a young person tasked to do a design system. This is a classic example that I've seen because design systems is not as well known, let's say, in the outside world. So somebody gets tasked with a design system. Let's call this person Rafael. So Rafael goes on Google and Googles design systems. Then he's like, why don't we read a comprehensive guide to design systems? This is literally gonna give me everything I need. And the best part is that it's only 15 minutes, and I'm gonna be an expert, for sure. So he goes in and finds all of this concept. Atomic design, start with why, getting buy-in, and starting it's like, I'm at a startup. Why do I need to get buy-in? From why? Michael already said yes. All right. Stakeholders, if I'm a founder, well, me, myself, and I, we're on board. Governance, what is that? Like precedent? I don't understand. These concepts are awesome. But at startups, in many cases, they don't even make sense. So yes, a lot of documentation and articles that are great have been put out there about design systems, but in some cases, they're too advanced. They're too advanced for a small startup, which is trying to basically get off the ground, get something out the door. And this is too much. So he really is looking for gold. And jackpot. examples. This is where you're like, finally, I've got what I was looking for. And he clicks on a masterpiece, which is a design systems like the Polaris design system. Oh my God, here you can find hundreds, if not thousands of components that literally each have a use case, a solution, something for someone. You're a developer, you're a designer, you're a user, you're frustrated, you need customer assistance. Everything that you need is here. And literally there's every possible scenario. So what does Rafael decide to do? You know what? I'm gonna build my design system based on the Polaris design system. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, why don't we just recreate this masterpiece with all my limited knowledge? So what happens is that he is going to, this is my favorite metaphor, literally. He comes here and it's like, all right, how to do a design system, step 1, step 2. It's just insane. So now let's talk about what are some things that you can consider for your design system. So the most important things are consistency, speed, and connection. The same thing you ask for in a good Wi-Fi, basically. So hack for consistency. Start with the brand. It's very important that you think about the brand not only as in branding elements. It's not just the color, it's not just the weight, it's not a problem for the marketing team, it's not a problem for the graphic designers. Nowadays, the brand is literally what moves you forward. They're like, in today's world, there's companies that they don't even have a product out there. And literally they have followers that are so loyal that they wait for their products. They buy them while they're still in pre-launch, and then they sell out before a product is out. So don't think a design system is just for making products. You can create a design system for your brand, thinking about, okay, who's my audience? What is the look and feel that I want to give these people? What is the message that I want to send across? It's not only about the components. And when you're at a startup, this can literally give you a lot of advantages before the people who already started building product have the product ready and suddenly are like, okay, let's try to push this to people before we even tell them what we're doing. Does anyone know what this brand is? A couple of people, yeah? So this company is called Glossier. It's a very big company now in the US, and I believe it has shipping worldwide. If you don't know, check it out. It's worth for everyone. And this company was a startup a few years ago. And of course, many people might say like, oh, well, now they're big, their success was because of this and that. What happens? This is one of the biggest examples of how nowadays in 2019, the power of the brand can take your company so far ahead. And in a matter of months, in a matter of days, literally, you can connect with your audience. It doesn't have to be through like complex channels. You can do a design system for Instagram, a design system for your presentations, a design system basically to talk to your people. Because what happens? At your startup, you need two things. One is, of course, like getting your product in the hands of people. And the second one is you need feedback. You need to understand what's working and what's not. So reach, whether your product or reach, whether your communications, your brand is what's actually gonna make someone understand like, you know what? I want to be associated with this regardless of what they do. These people literally launched a couple of years ago and they've been doing makeup all along and facial products and body products. Suddenly they decided to come up one day with a line of dog toys. What happened? Sold out in 2 minutes. So there comes a point that it's not even about the product. You can sell anything, but create a very strong brand. And not only like all new brands are thinking about this. Do you recognize this brand? Does anyone know what this is? Yeah, this is Nike. All right. Many of the reasons that we know what Nike is because of their brand. You might not have a shoe. Nike, like they started with a website recently. Now they have a killer mobile app, but the brand is what keeps you coming. So don't underestimate it. So here it is. Make the brand a crucial part of your system because it can be a game changer, even before you have product. All right, now hack for speed. Don't we want this? Literally leverage existing open source toolkits. It's very important that you understand that there's tools out there that have been built for you, so you can literally go in, design your products, design your brand, prototype, mock up, and put your things out there. In many cases, the failure of the prototyping part and the getting the first product or the MVP out there, it's like the non-understanding of these tools and going, for example, with what Rafael did. Rafael went in and tried to copy the Polaris design system. Well, at the end of the day, you can use many of these toolkits. Toolkits, for example, like Bootstrap. This has been used by thousands of companies that are massive. I don't know, Twitter uses it, Lyft uses it, LinkedIn uses it, Spotify, you name it. And right now, again, you think these are massive companies. Yes, but they were startups very recently as well. You can also go with something that maybe is not as technical or gives you a larger amount of components if you're building, for example, like native apps. So you want to go with material design. This gives you what the components look like, what the code looks like. You can literally paste it. Then if you have your brand, you can apply it. Make sure that all of these systems are flexible for you to actually modify what you have and take your message out there. Or if you're more in the design systems trend, you can even go to Storybook and mock your components and not even have to build the whole thing, you put it out. This is leverage versus appropriation. It's not the same to take a framework that's already built for you to plug and play than actually going and try to copy someone else's design system. Not because it's a bad thing to do. Ethics are new, but it's because probably someone else's design system, as Shopify's design system, is gonna work only for them because it was designed for that purpose. And have this in mind is one of my favorite quotes, and it's literally, don't try to reinvent the wheel. If we're here, it's because there's so many people that have come before us that have already put in the work, and we can leverage all of this good work to move our product forward. And the last thing that I want to leave you with is a hack for connection. It begins with you. In a startup, there's no amount of documentation, there's no amount of tutorials that are going to replace the human connection that you can have with your team. Take advantage that you're a small team, talk to your peers, talk to your coworkers. You're a designer and you're a developer, it's fine. You can find literally common language and meet in the middle. You want to call something something? It's fine, it's up to you. You think you don't have anything in common? Well, at startups, what happens is that usually the idea that you're trying to build, it's what brings you together. So you can use that to push forward. Literally, build a connection culture. Invest time in spending time with your peers. Do not be like these people that value busy time over connection time, because that creates cultures of indifference. So when you actually prioritize reading the documentation of a design system, which might be for your company, instead of connecting with the people that either created the design system, which might be outside of your company. Look, nowadays in such a digital world, people are a tweet away, a Slack message away, an Instagram message away, whatever it is, that you don't have to go literally like the old school way and try to find things buried in a pile of documentation. Literally look around you. Have you already talked to the people that are sitting next to you? Find someone today that maybe have your same interest, that is into design systems, or maybe not at design systems at all. It's about basically building what you want to achieve together. And believe me that human connection is a superpower. This is the glue of your startup. This is what people call, it's a cultural fit, when things literally move forward because people are in sync of minds. So thank you very much, and I hope that we can connect later.